So we're very, very lucky to have with us Jutta Engelhardt, all the way from Europe. Jutta runs Sport and Dev, which is without any argument the first site that anybody would want to visit if you are in the Sport for Development fraternity. We are very fortunate to have Sport and Dev as our partners for this event. And Jutta has kindly assented to take a workshop for those of us in the sector who have a special interest in how to tell our stories better. Over to you, Jutta.
If you can't, just raise your hand. I'll speak up or go to the microphone later. Welcome, everybody. I feel very lonely up here, so I'm very glad that this room is filling up, despite the fact that there's two other very interesting workshops going on right now. So if you are not in the right room with communication and social media, it's now the time to leave and go to the other rooms. Otherwise, I hope that we can fight digestion periods by just being very active and being a group of people that actually creates a workshop. I will bore you a bit with introduction and with a bit of theory, but after that I think that we can really get the pens out, get the papers out, and do something that you can take home with you as a sort of a lesson to then implement in your day-to-day work. Because communication and social media is actually something very, very practical. And I think we are all here because we want to do better communication, a brighter telling of the stories that we all have in plentiful, and that we really want people to see it, listen to us, like us, and make sure that we get the necessary framework conditions set up for ourselves to create something sustainable. So instead of, before I start diving into the topic, I really would like to give you a real short overview of who I am and what I do, because it sometimes is a bit awkward if somebody steals 1.5 hours of your lifetime and you don't even know who this person is. So just bear with me. I'll give you a short overview what we do and where I come from. I work for the Swiss Academy for Development, called SAD. We are not the SAD people. We are SAD, and we were a foundation established in 1991, so we've been around for a while. Our target group is youth in rapidly changing environments, so we work in a lot of crisis areas around the world. We are a non-governmental, not-for-profit organization, and we are dedicated to applied science, social research and science, which means we are not a humanitarian implementing organization. We're doing research. But the research is very practical, because we're trying to be the bridge between the social science, what is there, what scholars find out, and the practice that is actually in the field. And we think that they should be talking to each other much more and learning from each other much more. So we are trying to be the bridge. We're trying to do transfer from whatever pilot project we accompany, because we don't do the implementation ourselves in the field. We have local partners, and we give the monitoring evaluation framework around it, trying to get the data from them, evaluating it, but obviously they do the data collection. So we have to school local organization in how to do monitoring evaluation, and then we communicate the message together. The local organization and we are communicating the message, how this intervention has worked and whether it has worked as it was intended to. Because the surprising thing is that many of the interventions that we do have a lot of effect, but not the one that we promised to get. So this is the exciting thing, or the exciting organization that I work for. We work in Switzerland and Hungary, because there's also, it's not only a southern problem that we need development. So in Switzerland and Hungary, there's a lot of development work to be done. We work or have worked for a long time in Sri Lanka, where we have worked for the inter-ethnic dialogue among children and youth. We work in Nepal in a pretty large program that is going from early childhood interventions all the way up to vocational training. And we work with traumatized women in South Sudan. And we run sportanddev.org. And I think this is the reason why I'm here right now. Sportanddev.org is probably the oldest platform in sport and development. as it was already set up 10 years ago, as you can see on our anniversary logo. We have created, we have attempted to create first only a database, because it was, Sport and Dev was invented at a conference called the Möglingen Conference, which was a predecessor of the Next Step Conference. It was a very important conference because the UN Office for Sport Development and Peace was actually established with that conference. So we had our first special advisor to the Secretary General of the UN be appointed during that conference in the office established in Geneva for the first time. But the practitioners that were at that conference said, listen guys, it's all nice and beautiful what you've done here with all the ministers and with all the big talk about policy and stuff. But we feel like islands in a big, big sea. We work here and there, and we didn't even know that there was something called sport development, because we were using sport for development somehow. But we were not aware that there was something called a field of sport development. So that was in 2002, 2003. And sport development then wanted to start a database to create something where people could check who else is working in the field. So for 5 years, we were nothing else than a database. You know, you could go and check out. Nowadays, in 2008, we had a big relaunch, a big overhaul, and the theory was then we want this to be a communication platform. So all the time we were trying to provide services, and I think that's really important. We were trying not to get mingled up with the field. We were trying to be really the facilitator for everybody to be able to come to this platform and share what they know. Obviously, the sharing needs to be animated. So our job is to get people to trust the platform, to not misuse their knowledge, to feel like this is a network where they can benefit from while contributing to. Because when you go network, it's important that you really understand, what am I getting out of it? If I contribute something to a network, I want something back. So for Sport and Dev, it's been 10 years of facilitating work, of getting information from you, of interpreting some of this information, of analyzing, of rephrasing, of sometimes taking our own stance, but not all that often. Now for today, I think the introductions is done. I've also asked you to all write your organizations and names back there, because I think it's important that you know who's in here. So I'll type up that later on, and I will put that on Sport and Dev for you to check who else was in the room with you, and to find out who you could connect to, because this is what this conference is about. It's about connecting to each other, communicating about what you're doing back home, and actually making this sector a vivid sector. So I would like to talk about what is communication and what is good networking today. And I would like to point out what sort of tools can be used, which tools are available to us as a sector, and then give you a bit of time to do a practical exercise and then come to conclusions. Who has never heard of Sport and Dev before? Okay. Is there anybody in the room that has their profile on Sport and Dev? Team players or organization, projects? That's good. That's a good start into what I think should be. Okay, just a bit of definition work. What is communication? Communication is a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding, in which participants not only exchange information, and it can be coded and decoded, news and ideas, but they also create and share meaning. And I think this is a really important step for understanding that communication is much more than just me passing a message to you, and you listening to it, deciphering what I try to say, and then having some sort of a reaction to it. It's really something where in between this process, something else is happening. There's meaning created because you interpret what I'm saying, and when you react to me, I actually get something totally different back. So it is also about creating and sharing meaning. Now this is we could go on for ages talking about this, but this is not why we are here. This is the general communication definition. We are here because we want to talk about comms. We are here because we want to talk about communication as a management tool. It's a management tool that facilitates operational growth by internally linking employees in departments and throughout hierarchical levels, and by externally creating awareness of the organization's core values and activities. Again, the statement includes two messages. The first message is, within your organization, there needs to be communication. And this communication needs to be done in a way that everybody gets the right proportion of information for the organization to be striving, in the right format, packaged the right way. Today, we'll not talk about knowledge sharing, because we could spend a whole day talking only about how you facilitate knowledge sharing within your organization. So what we will talk about is the internal creating awareness of the organization's core values and activities. That's the only thing that we will be spending our time on for the next 1.5 hours. I actually took a very long time to come up with this slide. It's absolutely not rocket science, but I tried to squeeze everything in. So bear with me. I think that good communication is about increasing your visibility as an organization. You want to be seen from the outside world. You want to share what you have to say with the outside world. So it is about being read. It's about being requested. And it's about being liked and being funded. So when you are read, this means that you are transmitting the information that you have. When you're being requested from others, from partners, this means that you have succeeded in radiating expertise. You are the ones that are the ones to solve the problem. If you're liked, you've created some sort of a hype around your organization, some sort of curiosity that people bring to check out what is going on here. And then, the last one, being funded, you have succeeded in establishing trust through transparency. You've really succeeded to convince somebody that putting their money into your pot is actually going to be a good investment. When you transmit information and when you're being read, I think it's important to understand that what you have to do to actually be read in this world, where reading becomes something that nobody has time for. So I think if you want to transmit information, it is to produce exciting articles, to publish reports, to run interviews, and to share first-hand experiences. Now, all of these are targeted to specific target groups. So you're not going to produce exciting articles if you want to write to the Secretary General. You gotta use a totally different style than if you want to write something to your peer that is running a program in the field and has the same sort of problems. So producing exciting articles is not that easy. It is about publishing reports. When you publish reports, they need to have a good format, they need to look good, but the content actually needs also to be convincing. So it needs, we have to let go of boring formats of a one-page text here and one-page text there. There needs to be some excitement in there. And it's sometimes not that easy to come up with good, interesting reports that you can put your findings in, that you've worked for so hard. I'm an absolute fan of running interviews because it's the best way of, in a very short time, get what other people have to say. So asking questions is the essential thing here. Don't only transmit messages, but also trying to get people to answer to questions and share the first-hand experience. I think that Sophie Bouet said that yesterday very clearly. She said, we need due diligence, we need really reporting, we need that you create a good setting so that we as a donor actually want to give you money. But she also mentioned that it's also about sharing that first-hand experience that you actually can bridge to the donor, to the public, because you have these participants in your group and you know what it actually does to them. So even if you don't have the whole monitoring and evaluation system set up to interpret what this statement means, it's already a lot to transmit that statement.
What we managed was, we decided to have this good article. It's Flip the Image is what is our title of the article, Flip the Image. With Flip the Image, we were discussing in this conference, we were discussing how the image of sport is changing in, around the world. We believe that playing sports can do a lot of good to children, youth, and to, a lot of people. So we decided to, have this title after a very long time, yeah, you want to? Yeah, sure.
So basically, Flip the Image, we had a very animated discussion, and we were all kind of all over the place in a way. But we finally boiled down to this, that the whole thing that is often said in the years gone by in the education system about in India, about padhoge likhoge to banoge nawab, kheloge koodoge to hoge karab. So if you're studying and you're writing, you're going to do great in life. But however, if you're playing, you're definitely going to have a rotten road ahead in a way. So it's about flipping the image, which one of the members of the team came up with. And we realized that actually it's that what we want to do. We want to flip the image about sports being a very good choice in whatever you want to do. Of course, we're talking about the school setup here, that you really want to start working early with children, injecting the sports culture in a system. And of course, discussion started off with that our children really engaged in schools and how we can really impact that. So we finally decided on flipping the image, and of course, it has various dimensions, various ramifications.
Yeah. So anybody want to add? I think this is perfect. Yeah, so the first paragraph that we decided, we have not written entire sentences, but I'll just tell you what we have decided. So first paragraph headline is inspiration. So what sports provide? Sports provides inspiration to all of the people who are engaged into it. And we have discussed about inspirations, like how in our schools we are told to sit in the classroom and study books, and there's no inspiration at all. There's teachers are not inspiring enough. And what we see in sports, that when you go out on the field, you're so inspired, you're so motivated, there's energy levels are so high. So that's what sports provide. The next paragraph, we talk about aspirations. We talk about how sports give you an aspiration, to achieve, to reach, to score, to achieve your targets, to plan. So we discuss a whole lot of aspirations that sports provide. Anybody wants to add? Yeah? I'm sorry, I'm just missing, because we had a very lengthy discussion and it's very difficult to, recollect everything. And the third paragraph that we were looking at is role models, that how sports provides role models. So we all are, when we were growing up, we saw sports stars, sports players playing, and we idolized them and we wanted to be like them. So what sports provide is role models. So inspiration, aspiration, and role models, if we can focus on these three aspects, we can really flip the image that we have for sports. So that is what our article is about.
Thank you very much. It shows how difficult it is to write an article that has clear and very defined paragraphs. And I think you did a great job, because it is a very fundamental topic that you're dealing with. It's a topic that everybody in the group might have different opinions about as well. And you have a great title. you have paragraph subtitles in your article, which is essential because people don't read more than about 75 to 100 words per paragraph, and then they skip it. And you have sort of a clear guideline also between your paragraphs because it's all in the same tone of voice. It's that inspiration, aspiration, and then the role model explaining where the origins for these two words up front are coming from. So next step would be that you formulate these paragraphs, and then you write a lead which actually sums it all up. And the lead has about 40 to 60 words. So it is very difficult to, and it's also some time to spend on the lead because the lead will appear and it will say on the home page, for example, and it will say read more. And if the lead is not exciting enough, people will not like it, where they will not click on your article. So if you want to have visibility, which is the most important part about communications, it's about being clear, it's about being in the same style throughout the article, and it's about structuring it so that people will not be discouraged to read it. Thank you very, very much. I think it was a very good work that you did here. Okay. Give them a big hand here. Okay. We have two groups of Twitter and Facebook experts, I think. Yes? Okay. We'll start with the Twitter group. Okay.
We just discussed about the basic guidelines you should have when you're using Twitter. Okay, and the first thing is the language and the grammar, because normally using proper full words and sentences are highly recommended, but since Twitter has a 140 character limit, within your organization you should first probably decide whether it's okay to kind of shorten words to fit in the 140 character limit, and so that should be one of the main points with regard to Twitter, how it's different from other social media. And the tweets, okay, since the person who are going to be handling the account, it should be politically correct because you're not representing your personal opinion here, but rather the opinion of the organization. So the tweet should generally be neutral, and using the correct hashtags, because if not for the correct hashtags, it's just a set of random tweets scattered around the website. For example, if it's going to be a news item, you put the headline and you put the link to the website which has the actual article, and you put the appropriate hashtag for it. And if it is an event, you will have to decide on the hashtag you're going to use for the event, and all posts related to the event will have to carry the same hashtag. And And one more important thing about Twitter is that time, being on time, because like Twitter is probably one of the fastest places where you can find the news even before it comes up on the websites. So you have to keep giving updates, keep reposting, and keep using the same hashtag to drive up the trend on the on the Twitter website about your event. And how you can make the updates not look monotonous is to first give a teaser about the particular event, and then you can probably give like a quote said by someone during the event. And so that way you can keep posting about the same event using different posts. Yeah, so like an example we thought was probably for the Next Step conference, the first thing you can say is the Next Step conference is starting in an hour, and then you put the hashtag for that. And after an hour, you can put one of Vijay Amritraj's comments, and you can say he said that. So since he is a celebrity in India, that's going to drive up more craze about that particular event. And the thing we thought about the cross-fertilizing with the website and social media account is you have to be careful how the other social media functions, like Facebook. For example, if you're going to put the same thing twice and it's also cross-linked, the same update is going to keep coming over and over. So you will have to be careful about that because too much information can also be a little bit of nuisance at times. So they will have to be aware about that because most of the times it's not like the same person who's going to handle the Facebook and the Twitter account and the website. So there has to be a good understanding between the people regarding how the updates are going to come. So generally, and if you want to do that, there are ready-made tools where you can just link your Twitter account to your Facebook. So any tweet you put up is going to come up on Facebook. So you don't have to bother updating the same thing on Facebook again. And you also have built-in widgets which put all your tweets and Facebook posts on your website. So that is regarding the cross-fertilizing and monitoring the comments. Okay, the next thing about Twitter is there are two ways you know that your tweet is being reached to someone. Either if they retweet your post or if they reply back to your tweet. So if they retweet it, you can be assured that it's going to be reaching out to more people. But if they're going to reply back to you, then you will have to decide, as in the person operating the account will have to decide whether, because sometimes it might just be something irrelevant, sometimes it might be spam, sometimes it might be something which is abusive. So that way we should have an inbuilt protocol to decide how we are going to respond to such situations. And so yeah, that's about how much we discussed regarding. And I think most of this is very generic to all social media, not just Twitter. Yeah. Yeah, costing. So yeah, the thing about Twitter is, okay, it takes a minute to put a tweet, but you need someone checking the account continuously to make sure, because if you're going to be 1 hour late, then you are left behind in the Twitter world. So there has to be someone with internet access ready to check the tweets, ready to reply back. So it depends. Okay, the cost is actually very relative because it depends on how good a Twitter user you are. And I guess in most NGOs, that's the situation where you cannot afford to have someone specifically for social media, so it's a responsibility someone will have to additionally take up with their existing responsibility. And another thing, okay, which we slightly spoke about was having an internal protocol regarding dispersion of information. For example, if you're going to announce some news or something, there has to be an inbuilt protocol saying first it's going to be tweeted on the official page, and then the people who are members of that community can retweet it, instead of the other way, because we have had situations like that where a personal account has tweeted information first before coming on the official. So I guess, yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
All of this shows that there's much more than just placing the tweet. If you really want to use Twitter professionally, you gotta, there's a long list that he just elaborated, and I'm glad that I didn't have to do that. But that it's already right there, and that if you have somebody who is charged with so many other things, and then is asked to do the twittering as well, they end up maybe confusing their personal Twitter account with their professional stance. And that is really more harm to be done to the organization than good. So it's really important that if you're managing staff, you need to make clear that people understand what sort of a stance, what sort of political correctness, what sort of grammar is to be used to be representing your organization. Because we are reaching out with information to millions of people. And that's what you want. You want thousands of likes, and you want thousands and thousands of people actually getting your messages. And if you succeed in doing that, then you better get the right image across. So thank you very much, and I'll pass on to our Facebook group.
Our objective which was given was posting news items, events and publications. And the first activity which we will be doing is creating a page, and photos and posters being shared on the page, which will be like photos of past successes, past tournaments and all, and news items and publications. And the thing which we are doing is the page, we will be sharing it with our friends, and then we will be asking those friends of ours to share it with theirs. And this will, the desired outcome would be, of course, publicity, promotion, and wider reach. And cross-fertilizing website and social media account, we were thinking to post the link of our website under every photo, under every news item publication, so that we can promote it as much as we can. And monitoring comments, monitoring, we were thinking that to actually recruit someone, a special monitoring officer, to monitor the comments of all those people who are commenting on the page, on the news items, photos, posters and all, so that they can feel more involved with the organization, and which in turn will publicize our organization and our website.
I think here the important thing is that you are creating a Facebook page, but you have to be aware of the fact that a lot of people will probably only see your posts. And so it's important to have that base from which you can sort of jump. But it's not necessarily that everybody goes to that page to actually check it out. So it is important that you keep it up to date, that you have sort of an archive, as you said, a track record of what you have done on that page. But it's probably also a very good idea to focus very much attention on how often do I communicate on Facebook, how do I do it, and what do I do it in the end. And I think one of your comments that you asked in between was that I should pass the microphone real quick again, because I think that's a critical remark which we should really be aware of.
Actually, my question was, in a country like India, where internet penetration is somewhere around 16%, how are we going to promote sports through internet, or not just sports, any other activity through internet? Even though user-wise we are far ahead of, not far ahead, we are about to get far ahead of US by 2015 with 243 million users. So how are we going to promote sport or any activity through internet if our internet penetration is not going over 16% of the population?
I promised when he was asking me this about half an hour ago to come up with an answer. I don't have one. It's a fact of life, and we are waiting for internet penetration to be more in countries like India, in any country in the world that we are working in. But I also think that we cannot, just because that's the case, ignore that there's a big community already out there. So I think we have to do with who we reach right now and see to it that we pass the right messages and do the other networking, like going to conferences, writing publications, and doing the networking. So I'm heading over to you, and I give you as much time as the others, but keep in mind that people would probably want to have tea too.
Excellent. That's what's so good about going last. First of all, my name's Jaydeep. I'm here because I use Ultimate Frisbee as a tool for social change. These are the Frisbees. And they're 150 rupees each. So we were doing networks. It's all here on the map. Maybe most people can see it. It's how to plan your input to a relevant network. What we first did was think about what all the different networks are. So we came up with ones like colleges and universities, donors, sports organizations, and obviously sports for development organizations. And that's the one that we went with. So we picked that as a network and then use that for the rest of the planning. So we then had to think of inputs. It's really hard to see on here, but the different kinds of inputs that this would involve: attending conferences like this one, blog posts, sharing an annual calendar of events, joint activities, proposals. And then we talked about what that would involve, like how do we do that? So coming up with time-bound communications. So to say that, okay, if we're going to do this, then something should happen every single month, or something should happen every 3 months, or something needs to happen on a set time basis. And then also making sure that that's consistent. Again, we already talked about attending conferences, so actually going to the conferences, having the meetups, having them happen. Popularizing what you're doing. Which is a little bit like what I do. I just carry a Frisbee around everywhere I go, and it becomes a talking point. So an example of that. Webinars or word of mouth. So these are all examples of how we can achieve these things. So what we thought the benefits were, we've come up with building partnerships, branding, accountability, sharing new ideas, visibility. This one is discovering new opportunities and resource mapping. Now we're going to end up with just a time frame. What kind of time frame are we looking at? Short term and long term. So in the short term, we're looking to get visible. We can do blog posts in the short term. Longer term, we're looking at, that would be like joint proposals, maybe achieving the grants that we need that we will get through those proposals. And then it goes beyond. I'm sure there's much longer term, 2 to 3 years. You can start to think about what these networks will mean. For costing, I'm actually going to hand it over to Ritika, and she's going to talk a bit more about what the cost analysis might look like.
So clearly, since we come from a non-profit sector, we would like to keep our costs minimal, possibly zero, and look at as much funding as we can receive from sponsors, corporate houses, any other organization, any such platforms such as like what we have right now, and look at spending as less as possible and using existing infrastructures instead of building our own. So cost in terms of time cost would be extensive follow-up with different networks, different point of contact, resource cost, human resource, and and other resources. It totally depends on the kind of follow-ups that we need and what our approach plan is. And just because we are here in Next Step, and I would like to, I'm Ritika from Magic Bus, and I just want to share with you all that Next Step, for the first time in the history, and this is the 5th in the series, we have our own branding. Next Step 2014 has a branding and a style guide. So I'm hoping that you people have seen that around and just want to share that.
It was great. Next Step actually asked, or Magic Bus asked us, can we place Next Step on Sport and Dev? And can we actually have registration done through it? And we said, yeah, if you have a logo, we can do that. So it was a cooperation in the sense that there was a need from the side, from your side, to create visibility for this event. And then the practical steps were developed together, and this beautiful logo came out of it. And I think that it can be the Next Step logo for the rest of the time. Maybe we need to have a copyright thing on there for Magic Bus. But I think this shows that I don't want to have a big conclusion now. What I want to do is just to remind you what we were talking about. We were talking about increased visibility for your organization and gaining recognition for the work that you're doing. To be read, to be requested, to be liked, and to be funded. And I think that those 4 words maybe can stick in your head, that these are the building stones, and these, what we discussed now, were just simply the tools to fill this increased visibility in, so that your organization actually gets the deserved visibility and recognition in the field. And so that we all, by building individual visibilities, become a sector that is proud, that collaborates, that has an image to radiate to the rest of the sector, because that's, for me, is the next step that we have to go. Let's not be great organizations on the ground that have no visibility. Let's become visible organizations that collaborate together and that are thoroughly and believing in the fact that sport can do it. So I thank you very, very much for your patience, that I've taken up so much more time of your tea break, and you're tired from listening to all sorts of brilliant presentations today. Thank you very much, and I hope that this was a bit helpful for increased visibility of your own organizations. Whenever you have questions, I can be reached via sportanddev.org. Don't shy away. Drop me an email and make sure that we stay in touch. Thank you.